Nick Poloni, and Ted Gergen. Nobody is absent here tonight, and I'll take a motion on the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries. We know why you guys are here tonight, so we'll get right to it. For public comments, these were sent out in the email that came forward, so I'm just going to go through them just so we're all on the same page here. So any handwritten or emailed comments were received by Diane, 4 p.m. yesterday. Anything that was received after that was still looked at and reviewed, but is not part of the official public comments. Those are posted on our website. We will not be reading those tonight. Those are for anybody from the public to read on their own. Each in-person who has signed up on this sheet, you do have 3 minutes to speak. You'll go to this nice little microphone right there. Again, 3 minutes, and you must remain respectful, and if not, you will be stopped by any of us here, but most directly I will stop, as this is still a school and a place where we can speak with respect. Yelling, using profanity, or using any specific names won't be allowed either, whether it's children, board members, staff, just no names. What else do we have here? Okay, that's it. So this isn't a Q&A session. We are here to attend and listen to you guys. So there won't be any commentary back from us unless we have a specific question or anything that we would like to say specifically after that, but we won't be doing any sort of Q&A.
Yeah, one other thing that I just wanted to address too, based upon the posting for this meeting, we did address it to the parents of this district, and as well as board policy does state that in order to speak to the board and have us consider your comments, you must be a resident. Looking at this, it does appear that everyone that signed up here is a resident. So if you haven't signed this, please give us a hand here so we can make sure that you're a resident parent and or a member of the staff here at Salem. So it's just to try to keep things orderly. We want to really represent the people of this area the best that we can, or the parents of this district, including the the staff members as well. Everyone is a part of this at this point that has some bearance into the district. So just as a FYI.
Great, so we will go ahead and get started. Who is our first name? I apologize in advance for any name that I mispronounced. Michael. Thank you, my apologies.
And just give me 1 second here. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Michael Agna, father of two. Can everyone raise their hand quick? See how easy it is to do something without knowing why I asked you to do it? It's exactly what my kid thinks when he comes home and I have to tell him about masks and what's going on in the world right now. In regard to masks, I've looked up the evidence, the science, and also used common sense and human decency with wearing a mask and trying to mask our children is, I think, plain child abuse. COVID poses no risk to our children. There's 3.7 million cases between the ages of newborns to 15 years old. 0.008 have passed away. Please look at the 2018 to 2019 flu numbers. The flu is more dangerous than COVID. Did you guys in this room require kids in 2018 or 2019 to carry masks around and stop the spread of the flu that is every season? We are teaching our kids that masks are okay to wear every day, all day, not our family. It's showing them that the air is poison. Everyone around them is sick. The side effects breathing through masks, have you looked into that and what that is? They can't learn to read or enunciate words, especially children in my family, when they're at that age. Children are safe. If the adults are scared, they could be vaccinated. They could protect themselves. If they're worried about the kids bringing it home to their families could get vaccinated. If you've had COVID, you probably have one of the strongest immune systems, if you've lived through it, to fight it off. I think what's going on is that people who are forcing our kids to wear masks are doing it more politically and for their positions that they're in. Shame on all of you that voted for mask mandates. I suggest that all of you get the facts other than the media and the TV that's putting out fear into all of our lives for our kids. One other thing I want to talk about is child obesity during the lockdowns and when the kids are left at home trying to get outside and play or work on their health and wellness. What are you guys doing to promote that? Child obesity is up over 30% through the nation, and it's stifling our kids. Masked or not, vax or not, I believe in freedom. To have that choice is what our country was founded on. It's the fabric that keeps us together. Last year was racial divide. This year it's vax and mask divide. Don't you see what's going on here? They're weakening us to comply nationally and globally. United we stand, divided we fall.
Margie Alasna. My apologies.
My name is Margie Alagna. I am the mother of my son George, who attends 4K at Salem, and have a daughter Lucille, who is 17 months. I stand here tonight speaking on behalf of those parents that wish to speak who do not have the courage to do so. I am their voice this evening. Growing up, I didn't know if I wanted to have kids or not. I wasn't afraid of raising a child. I knew I could be a loving mother who would think the world of her kids and do anything for them, would protect them at all costs. What it really was a fear of one day raising our kids in a world of uncertainty and negativity. A fear of how will they be treated and will they be treated fairly? Will they be safe and most importantly, be healthy? My worst fear as a mom is now coming to light, and it's bright more than ever. And now an approved vaccine for 5-year-olds, WTF. By choosing to mask our kids, this abuse brings more issues to light, and we are punishing them for our fears, not theirs. We are afraid. Our kids are not. Wearing a mask does more harm than good. They cause physical, psychological, mental, and emotional effects. Anxiety, which leads to withdrawal from social interactions. The human body is designed to expel waste through exhaling. Holding these wastes against the face creates a whole new set of problems as our kids inhale the bacteria and viruses their body is trying to get rid of and those wastes. They sit in a moist environment, their skin. By masking, kids are now touching their faces more frequently to having to wear a mask. We are only adding to the problem that we expect these masks to fix. And what kids rely on, facial cues to interact and respond appropriately to teachers and peers, is now eliminated. They also now have an unhealthy worry that they will make everyone around them sick. Kids are resilient to COVID, let's not forget that. Let's not allow the media to poison us with information that does no good when there are statistics out there that help relieve some fear but yet are not chosen to share. They want to ingrain the fear more into everyone. Why not, seeing it's already been done? Take a look at the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association website, and you will wonder, why was that data not shared? We are continuing to be mentally abused by the media, and we need to stop always believing what they say. Do we look at the data that shows schools without mask mandates actually had lower case rates than schools with mandates? We need to be the change and take a stand. We don't co-parent with the government, so why are we trying to? Kids look up to us, and we are currently failing them. Thank you.
John Fex. Did I do that right?
No, Fex.
Feeks.
Okay. My daughter is an 8th grader and loves school. Like many other kids, when she was doing online schooling, her grades slipped, her drive slipped, she wasn't staying on track, and she was greatly distracted. So when she was back in school, things improved, but she hated wearing the mask. So this year, when she knew the masks were optional, she was back to normal, excited about school, engaged, and working hard. And as much as she loves school, she told me that if they make me wear a mask, I do not want to go back to school, and I won't make her. So what are you trying to do by implementing these rules? One of the most annoying sayings that have come out of this pandemic is follow the science. It seems to be the answer you always get. Well, let's follow the science. The virus is microscopic. A piece of cotton fabric or a surgical mask is not stopping the transmission of COVID. So how does the science fit into these arbitrary safety protocols? We're in yellow right now, but we're all here right now because we know that all signs are pointing to orange. So let's say the science in the orange protocol. Grades 4K through 5, masking is mandatory, and that's it. But 6 to 8, only mandatory if you can't socially distance, which is pretty much everywhere. But we have all that all too important COVID loophole. If you're seated at your desk, you can remove the mask. The science says COVID doesn't spread when you're seated. Only students who are unmasked will be recommended for quarantine if they're considered close contacts. Does this mean that masked people can't get COVID? Well, how are we in the pandemic if all it took was masks? People would be walking around with multiple masks on. But then, if cases get really bad, we go to red. Now everyone wears a mask, even the vaccinated, even the crazy seated students at their desk, because the science says that once we hit 2%, COVID begins to transmit to and from those people as well. And forget about sports, with all that breathing and cheering, yikes. Look around. When we leave this school, we take those masks off. We go to stores, restaurants, kids play sports, play with friends, celebrities are crowded around maskless in rooms for the Emmys. Your politicians wear their masks for the cameras and then they take them off when the camera's off. Meanwhile, our children have to sit in school, spaced out or separated from each other for hours at a time. This isn't about safety, and it sure isn't about science. It's about a vaccine. If it was about science, we'd be talking about natural immunity, but that's not anywhere in your protocols, not in any of the colors. Science says in a recent Israeli study that natural immunity is 27 times stronger than that of a vaccine. But that doesn't matter. The fact is, it's about fear and control. They need our kids masked, miserable, and afraid, especially the 4K, because down the pipeline is a corrupt FDA approval for vaccines for kids 5 to 11. And when that happens, parents will be quick to get the jab to get back to normal. But that's not going to happen because the vax are getting and spreading COVID too, which is why cases are at an all-time high, even though we have vaccines. So to sum it up, if you want to wear your mask, wear it. If you want to send your kids to school with one, fine, do it. If you want to get the vax, do it. And
Hey,
like
John,
that.
we gotta cut you off there, bud.
Okay, I got 1 second here. So my kid wants to come to school and learn. At least give her an option not to wear a mask. Don't make her sit at home for her final year here at Salem, because that's where she's going to be if you make her wear one. Thank you.
Ashley Bloomfield. Go ahead.
I just want to thank you for allowing us to speak today. I strongly support parents' choice. I'm asking the board to simplify the policy by not focusing on cases, masking, or tracing, but to instead focus on education. The primary role of the school is to educate. We are failing our kids with fake mandates, poor policies. What lessons are we teaching them to hide their face? Their voice doesn't matter, to breathe freely doesn't matter, that if you're healthy and choose not to wear a medical device, i.e. a mask, you have to be home due to policies for contact tracing. We should be focusing on their education and instilling strong core values versus instilling fear and compliance. Surrounding districts are all ranked with A-, with Salem a B- academically. When we moved here 3 years ago, Salem was B+, so it's not trending in the right direction. These other districts have different policies in place for COVID as well. They're not quarantining or masking full classrooms or doing contact tracing. They're not punishing the healthy kids by having them stay home if they choose to not wear a mask due to contact tracing. Instead, they're allowing all kids an education regardless of mask choice. The constant changes are getting old. Even the recent mitigation policy would force us to check the Salem website daily to see what status we're in. We've been directly affected by these policies. Because we do not consent to a medical device or mask wearing, our healthy girl in kindergarten is currently home under your policy, which is not right. And she does not want to wear one. What kid does? We were told 2 different things on when and how to come back. I'm asking the school board to come up with a different policy and to simplify it. The aim of the policy should not to please, but to instead focus on education and keeping healthy kids in school to learn. This is no different than the flu. Those that want to wear a mask can, those that don't. The sick and those that have symptoms stay home until well. Stop focusing on cases, quarantining, or forcing masks on whole classrooms. Stop contact tracing. Stop forcing healthy kids that do not want to wear a mask to stay home. If your child is healthy, they have the right to an education. Is that what America is not about? The freedom of choice? The freedom of education? When are we going to start acting like Americans again? When are we going to stand up for ourselves, for our children? The Wisconsin Health Department, CDC, Kenosha Health Department can give guidelines, but in the end, they're simply guidelines. They do not have to be followed, nor can they be legally enforced. There's no blanket policy that applies to all districts in the state. If there was, all school districts would be doing the exact same thing, but they're not. Wisconsin is a local controlled state. Therefore, we can make our own policies. So I'm asking the board, please do the right thing. Do the right thing for the children and focus on their education. Keep masks optional, remove the case focus, stop contact tracing. Let our healthy kids learn the way God intended them to. Thank you.
Amanda Cox.
My name is Amanda Cox. I am the mother of a kindergartner. My husband and I chose not to send our daughter to Salem Grade School because of the extreme push for masking from this administrator, even though the decision was made for optional masking. We knew this day would come. Continually getting contraindicating emails about the COVID policy from the administrator was exhausting when it is and can be very simple. I have never seen more confusion from a school in my life. A school is a place for our children to get an education, and Salem Grade School is failing its children. You are continuously focusing about COVID and your arbitrary policies rather than focusing on these children's educations. And we can attest to that from the falling academic ratings this school is receiving over the last couple years, lower than all of the other schools in the county. This should speak for itself. You are forcing healthy children to stay home and failing them academically because of some ridiculous policy that you put in place yourself from statistics that are not even researched nor proven. As a pediatric nurse who has worked in a level 4 neonatal intensive care unit for a little over 10 years, masking of our children is a personal health decision that is 100% up to the parent and family to decide for their own child. You do not make the health decisions for these children. It is solely a family's decision to mask their child. We are all able to make our own personal health decisions to do what is best for our children and our families. Imposing and forcing a mask on a child is child abuse. And dangling these children's education in front of them in order to impose your own views is undeniably illegal and considered crimes against humanity. The long-term safety and efficacy of masking children has not been proven whatsoever. A mask is a medical device, and in such instance, an informed consent is required. We are giving up hard-fought rights and our freedom out of fear. We are forgetting that long ago we have established fundamental human rights such as bodily autonomy, medical sovereignty, and informed voluntary consent. You can see the Nuremberg Code. All students have the right of access to learning, not just those who comply and wear a mask with no middle ground. I demand you, the administrator and the school board, to continue to allow optional masking. Mask mandates are not in place in the state of Wisconsin nor Kenosha County. Do not rip this personal health decision from each family, individual, and child. If you choose to do so, we will continue to fight for our children's constitutional right and freedom to breathe fresh air unmasked. We must remember what this country was founded on. What we allow to happen today is what our children learn to accept in the future.
Philip Bloomfield.
I'd like to start off with the survey results. 45% did not sign the mask waiver, while about 55% did. And it's just somewhat trends within them. But the most interesting topic that stood out to me was how few people wanted to restrict all the social activities of it. When I started thinking of social activities, the kids that are mine and in the neighborhood and all the ones who hang out outside of the neighborhood, they lay on the couches together and watch tablets, they watch movies together, they play together, they're in sports together, they're in dance class together, everything they do together, and almost all of it is maskless besides going to a doctor appointment. So outside of school, we're maskless. Then when we come to school, now we're supposed to be told we have to wear masks. So I know that COVID just doesn't reside within the walls of the school, it's everywhere. I know we did have some cases. And then with the cases, some parents may think they contracted it at school to the kids. I might even think that. I don't know. That's the point of it. You just never know where you get it from. You're never going to be able to prove it. The board, too, you may have reached out to your liability insurance provider, asked their lawyers what they think. They probably told you the same thing. You can't be litigated because you cannot prove where someone caught a virus. So now you might force something on us to wear masks that we don't want, that can't even be proven. But some feel that their health is at stake, or so are their kids. If that's the case, then they want us to wear masks, then how about fully enable someone to take care of someone else's health? I'd like to have the power to dictate their diet, their exercise, their medical choices, their daily schedule, their daily hygiene. I mean, if I'm responsible for someone else's health by wearing a mask to make them safe, then fully enable me. Don't just make my kid wear a mask on their behalf. And as I talk about health and safety, maybe we should also, someone else brought it up, look at obesity. The number one killer is heart disease and has been heart disease. I'm not coming to you to look at your menu of high sugar, low nutrition meals. I'm not doing that. I'm not coming in to talk about the obesity rate. Those are all parental choices, and unfortunately, it's something I do respect, but that's just something we need to consider. Maybe it's an inconvenience. If it isn't convenient, someone brought up seatbelts. That's a law. It's not an inconvenience. There is no choice. I can put on sunscreen or sunglasses on my kid, a gun lock, a pool alarm. Those are all my choices as a parent. And then from a statistical standpoint, over the last, pretty much for the longest time now, 5 of the last 9 months, more people have died from pneumonia in Wisconsin and in Kenosha County than have COVID. I don't see a health issue around pneumonia. It's just odd to me that we're focusing on this. And also from the website for the Kenosha Health District, there have been no deaths for kids, none, and only one of someone under 39. That's it. And then a recent case came up of a 13-year-old boy in another school, and COVID was mentioned that they died because of COVID. And if I quote from the Milwaukee Journal, the coroner said they need to work to determine if COVID even played a role. A quote from their own mother said that health officials said that COVID-19 was a contributing factor, but not the cause of death. So in closing, for me, there is no federal state mandate that you're upon. It's your decision, even from the Kenosha Health Department. So it's your choice. But as of tomorrow, I'll most likely be filing a religious exemption so that I don't have to deal with this anymore. That is protected by law.
Justine Gable.
My name is Justine Gable. I am the mother of 2 young children in 4K and in 2nd grade that attend Salem Grade School. I'm here to be the voice for my children, for your children, for the children of this school, and quite frankly, the children of this world. Our children are just that. They are children who have quickly become a pawn in this political game. Before I go any further, please do hear me when I say that I know that COVID is real, and I understand that it is real. I have seen the devastation it can cause a family and the harm that it can do to an individual. But I also know that there are millions of us that do not entirely believe the agenda and the news that is spewed at us every single day. The debate whether to mask or not will not go away, not today, tomorrow, or anytime in the foreseeable future. The choice to mask a child should be solely in the hands of the parents of those innocent children. After all, it is a medical decision. Let's state a few facts that we can all hopefully agree on. The death rate for children from COVID is astronomically low. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, as of September 16, 2021, of the 45 reporting states, the death rate for children was 0.00 to 0.03%. And number 2, we can all agree by this point, those that have felt so inclined to get vaccinated have done so. So this 2 weeks to slow the spread has turned into 18 months of the same song and dance. So how long will this mandate be dangled over our heads as a fear tactic? Or when will these other mandates come? The answer is, as long as we keep dancing. But doesn't it make you wonder, how are they continuing to hold all these large group events in Hollywood, such as the recently aired Emmys? You can see elites congregating joyfully with no masks. Yet here we are, debating this about our poor innocent children who are facing the same reality that they had 18 months ago, being masked, distanced, and segregated. I could sit here and give you statistics regarding the effective rate and the health risks of masks, especially for young children who do not wear them properly and they are constantly touching them. But I think we have all read and heard enough of this nonstop over the last year, from which we have all formulated our own personal viewpoints on this topic. The fact of the matter is if you want to send your child to school with a mask, then you should be able to do that, just as I should be able to send my child to school with no mask. Because you're the parent and I'm the parent. I make the health decisions for my children, not you, not you, not you, not the school board, the doctors, or the government. I do. My husband does. We are the ones that are doing this, not you guys. We are not co-parenting with you. So this was my husband and I's decision. I can no longer be complacent and dance to this horrible and terrifying song. I fear for our children, and I believe this is only the beginning of the tyranny and demise of our country. So I look to you, the school board, to please listen to our plea and ask for all of you to support the rights of us as the parents to make our own decisions for our children. Do not let the loud noises of the world around you make the decisions for you or for us. And with that said, I understand that many may not agree with me, and I wouldn't have agreed with myself a year ago, but the important thing is that we all need to remember what our country was founded on, and that's freedom. Thank you.
William Pelly.
I'm sure you're all sick of getting emails from me every single week, but I'm going to continue to do that. I believe strongly in what we stand for here at Salem. It's good to see a lot of people. I wish there was a lot more here tonight. I think what I want to focus on is just fear versus reality, which we've heard a lot about tonight. I think the media and a lot of people are doing a good job. There was a recent New York Times poll across Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and it asked, what is your chance to be hospitalized if you get COVID? A lot of people, let's see, it was 40, as much as 60% of Democrats thought it was 50% or higher, 28% of Republicans, and 35% of independents. So the fear is not aligning with reality. So the reality is between 1% and 5% that you'd be hospitalized. So I think I'm asking you guys to lead. I know I've sent an email already that said, please share the outcomes of these cases. We talk about cases all the time, right? When we hear cases, we hear fear, especially our kids. They look at the internet, they can see what cases are out there for us. So let's focus on outcomes. You know, was anybody hospitalized? What were the outcomes? We don't need to share names, and we can share what the outcomes are. I think that would help put people's fears more at ease. So if we can do that, I think there would be a lot more agreement that masks should be an optional choice. But the fear is driving a lot of these decisions. And it's going to take guts from you guys to stand up and say, you know what, I think we can make masks optional. You're going to be standing up against a lot of people that want to push against you. So I'm asking you to lead. You're leaders in this community. So lead and say, you know what, we can keep it an optional thing. We can keep it in the hands of the parents. Like many people have said, great speakers tonight, that it should be something that's between the parent and the child and not forcing somebody else's belief on them. So I'd ask you again just to lead, be a leader here. It's going to take guts for you to vote for masks to stay optional, but that's what I'm asking you to do. And try not to groan because I'll send you more emails as this goes on. Thank you.
Justin Delfrate. Thank you. Not my specialty.
My name is Justin Delfrate. My daughter goes to school here. A lot of people are kind of pointing this out. I just want to say I don't identify as a Republican. I don't identify as a Democrat. I don't identify as pro-vaccine. I don't identify as anti-vaccine. I don't identify as pro-mask. I don't identify against mask. I spent 13 months in Iraq for everybody to have their choice. And that's the kills me just to watch people throw their choice away. There's not a lot of people here. This place should be packed because this is your choice. This is your kids, and your kids look up to you. I don't have many statistics. I kind of wrote something, but I think I'm going to veer off because I think you guys are kind of tired of hearing statistics and so on and so forth. My question to you guys is, when does it end? That's my question. I was told if I got vaccinated, I didn't have to wear a mask. The president says we still got to wear a mask. When does it end? I was so happy with Salem when they said it's optional. At least I have a choice. I was proud. My daughter was elated to come back to school. Someone tested positive in her class. Now she's got to wear a mask for a couple weeks. I explained it to her. It's just for a couple weeks. I hope it's a couple weeks. Like I said, my question to you is, when does it end? If we do this to the end of the semester, when does it end? Does it end when kids can get vaccinated? Because I think there's a lot of people in here that won't get their kids vaccinated. So those kids got to wear a mask until they're vaccinated? At the end of the year, if we're still in the same boat, we do this next year, we're just prolonging the problem. I want the school board to show initiative. Leave it up to the parents. Leave it up to the parents' choice. Because that's what this is about. I guess I just don't understand the point. Like I said, it's choice, but I guess I just don't understand the point of a mask. Kids ain't wearing a mask anywhere outside of this building. We all know that. You go to Woodman's, ain't nobody wearing a mask. Everything is open in the state. You go to the Brewer game, 60,000 people. No one's wearing a mask. Elderly people are wearing a mask, and God bless them for doing it, because they're worried. If you're worried, you should wear a mask. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. My theory is what this is going to lead to is down the road. Are we going to mandate kids wear bulletproof vests in class? That's my question. Is this going to get this ridiculous? School's a place for kids come and be fun and enjoy each other, enjoy the presence. I don't know if you're laughing or smiling. I don't know if I pissed you off or maybe, you know what I'm saying? How do you think a 10-year-old feels, when she doesn't understand how her teacher's trying to articulate something?
Goddamn right.
That's my point. Thank you. Have a great day.
So we're about halfway through the individuals who signed up to speak tonight. I do want to say thank you all for kind of making this, a respectable event, adhering to the time. I assure you we're all listening to you as well. So thank you.
Kelly Banner.
First of all, I'd like to say that I agree with you that the disruptions that are occurring are greatly affecting our students' development.
Can you just stand a little bit?
These disruptions that are occurring are greatly affecting our students' development, learning, and connecting. With that being said, I do not support any of your COVID protocols. Our children need to return to normal now. Quarantining a healthy child who is not experiencing any symptoms is ridiculous. The minute we started isolating our healthy children and making them feel as if they were a burden is the minute we overlooked the real pandemic that is taking their lives. That pandemic is not COVID-19, it is mental health. Quarantining healthy children has caused an explosion of mental health crises, and we need to stop quarantining our healthy children now. The risk to my child's health by wearing a mask greatly outweighs any risk my child has of dying of COVID, which doesn't appear to be anything more than the common cold. Children are more likely to die from an accident, heart disease, suicide, gun violence. More children died of influenza than from COVID-19. In Wisconsin, no children under the age of 10 have died from COVID. It is time to make statistically based common sense decisions and not ones made out of fear and politics. Forcing a child to cover their face is disgusting. A child cannot properly wear a mask to begin with. It's dehumanizing. My child being not able to sing in music class is utterly ridiculous. A cloth mask cannot filter out a virus. The effectiveness of a cloth facial covering falls to 0 when there is as little as 3% or more open areas around your face. In that case, why aren't you forcing them to all wear surgical masks? That should be changed often and after every single touch. Who is going to be responsible for ensuring they do and making sure they wear them properly? Where are they placing their mask while they eat lunch? On a table? It is useless now. How about the person that told my child to clip a mask to their backpack to use again? Think about that. You are worried about a lawsuit from a child contracting COVID? What about the lawsuit when my child contracts who the hell knows what from that dirty mask you told them to put back on their face? When my child passes out, vomits in their mouth, feels suffocated, suffers physically, psychologically, and emotionally. None of you are qualified to provide advice about facial coverings, their proper use, and any dangers or benefits associated with the use of facial coverings. Clearly you think you do, so I'd like you to look at this document, and I'd like each one of you to sign it. To summarize, it requires you to disclose what, if any, training and qualifications you have to make facial covering recommendations, and also what liability coverage you carry for medical malpractice insurance. I have the right to decide what's best for my child's health and well-being, not any of you. You may want to check with your legal advisors before voting, because if you're going to make a decision like this for my children, I expect this to be signed by all of you.
Jessica Lina.
Hi, my name is Jessica and I have 2 boys enrolled here at Salem. As a parent, I stand here tonight fighting for a piece of our freedom. Freedom to decide what is best for my children. Our country was fought and founded on the basis of securing these very freedoms. I feel that parents should make the decision on what they think is best in regards to their kids wearing a mask. You currently have the freedom to decide if you want your child to participate in a school sport this year or join the school club. You have the freedom to decide the best way to get your child to school. Is it to ride the bus, walk, or drive them? Speaking of kids and cars, car crashes are the leading cause of death in children, and far more kids die in car accidents than die from COVID, and yet we all take our kids places every day, but you get to make that choice. Here in Wisconsin, you have the freedom to choose what school your children attend, as Wisconsin offers open enrollment, or the freedom to choose to homeschool your children if you feel that is best, as I did last year. You have the freedom to attend a board meeting, the freedom to vote in elections to choose our school board, or you even have the freedom to run for a position on the board. You have the freedom to speak up for your children and take a stand to preserve these freedoms. No one else knows your child like you do, and no one else should be able to make this monumental decision that I truly believe will have a lasting impact on our children for years to come. An impact that no one seems to want to talk about, even though there was a 30% increase in mental health-related emergency visits and a 50% increase in suicide attempts in girls in 2020, all stats found on the CDC website. The CDC also states that the current COVID hospitalization rate for kids is 0.003%. Again, that is 0.003%. We put too much focus on masks. Other local schools with mask mandates in place have higher rates than us. I found that both Bradford and Tremper High Schools in Kenosha have a higher percentage of total kids this year with COVID than Salem's total numbers, 2.8 and 2.7 respectively, compared to our 2.3%. Did you know that the World Health Organization states right on their website that children 5 and under should not be wearing masks? COVID is a virus and we can't avoid it. We as individuals can do what we feel is best to combat the virus. For some, it's a mask. For others, it's nutrition, exercise, and fresh air. But at the end of the day, we as parents and adults should be able to respect each other's decisions. Imagine if the situation was reversed and the school was denying you the freedom to mask your child. Just imagine. There are clearly varying opinions here, but when two sides are divided, it is far better to err on the side of freedom. Each parent should have the freedom and opportunity to do their own research and decide what is best for their child. A life worth living is full of risk. Let's not let the solution be worse than the problem. I'm here to urge the board to let the decision to mask children be in the hands of the parents or guardians. Thank you for your time.
Christine Kelly.
Good evening. I have 4 kids here at Salem who I did homeschool last year because we just couldn't deal with all the things that we would have had to do. It wasn't in their best interest. They're here this year and I sure hope they can stay. It's best to consider data when we're wondering what we should do about masks, and local data is the best, most applicable. We know here at Salem we have just over 2% of cases, total cumulative. Let's compare to two other local districts that do require masks and have from day one this year. Kenosha Unified and Antioch, also as of 9/21. Per Kenosha Unified website, they've had 309 cases within their population of 25,525, a rate of 1.21%, a little less than ours. However, Antioch grade schools also require masks. There are 79 cases in their population, 3152, 2.5%, 2.51% in Antioch. Most other districts around us do not require masks. Lake Geneva has 50 cases, rate of 1.36. Burlington, 49 cases, rate of 1.42. Masks optional, but not required. They're slightly over Kenosha numbers, but quite a bit less than Antioch. Our high school, West Scotia Central, does have a little higher, 2.7%, 31 cases total. Not much higher than Antioch's, where the masks are required. As you can see here, there's variability in these numbers, depending on the community, but not depending on mask requirement. Salem, Central, Antioch are a little higher. Some require masks, some do not. The others are right around 1 to 1.5%. Some require masks, some do not. Even if we ignore this data, because we feel masks are helpful, we all know our kids go and play outside with each other, playing at birthday parties, no masks. We all know our high school is not requiring masks. The stands are packed. Many of us have kids there as well. The same community. We all know we're sitting in restaurants without our masks. Let's think logically, stop pretending masking our kids is going to stop coronavirus. Wearing a mask does not mean you don't care about people. This data from the local schools shows very similar rates, whether the masks were required or not. It would have been easier not to come tonight, but it's because I do care that I'm here. I'm advocating against mandatory masks. They come with little to no benefit and great consequences. Kids need to see each other's faces. They need to see their parents' faces. They need to see their teachers' faces to develop speech, expression, emotional connection. We can't measure these things with numbers, but we do know how important they are in our kids' development. Let's put our focus back on educating our kids the best way we know how. Vote to give them a complete, quality education. Our kids are counting on you. Please vote no for mandatory masks. Thank you.
Nicholas Kurtz.
Good evening. My name is Nick. I do have 2 children here at Salem School, and I just want to say thank you for having my kids in school. I've been appreciative of that. Getting back to school last year, difficult time. I was super happy that my kids were in school, especially when my niece and nephew were down in Illinois, not in school, struggling with it. And so for me, that was a huge win. But I guess what I need to say is that I have a hard line in the sand. Masks is not a hard line for me. I can take it or leave it. But what's coming and potentially trying to vaccinate our children, that's a hard line for me. And if that comes here, we're out of here. Yep. And that's pretty much all I got. Thank you.
Megan Otto.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Otto. First of all, parents, thank you all for being here. You guys are all the real MVP. It's so important to show up. I wish that there was more people here, but thank you for being here. Okay, so here's the deal. Somebody brought it up already. Where does this end? Where does this all end, right? So from the start of this pandemic, I've been paying attention to the data, like I hope all of you have been. We've all been, looking at the numbers, right? So the CDC tells us that if you look at the number, if you look at the last time that they were reporting from like the 2018-2019 flu season, because it's kind of magically disappeared in case you haven't noticed for flu, which is very interesting. There was like around, let's see here, 480 deaths for the flu, okay, for kids. And now for this year, for COVID, there's been approximately 544 deaths. So if you run the numbers, if you crunch the numbers, there is 73 million children, over 73 million children in the US, okay? So that means that is a 0.000745% children have died from COVID. That is an extremely low number. And actually, if you also go on the CDC's website, you know what it tells me? It tells me that my child has a less of a chance of dying from COVID as they do from getting in a car crash. So what are we going to do? Are we going to all stop driving because, oh my God, are we a bad parent? No, what we are going to do is we're going to take common sense and we're going to say, oh my God, okay, so there's a chance that my child could die in a car accident, okay? But I'm going to take common sense. I'm going to say it has a very low chance of dying, and I'm going to take my chances. I'm going to do a good job. I'm not going to live in fear, and I'm going to go on with my life. That is what the data tells us. And you know what? My child has a less of a chance of dying from COVID as they do from a car crash. So I'm not going to live in fear with my child, because you know what? When does this end? What is it going to be, 2042? And the kids are going to be sitting in their school, bedrooms with their double masks on, never seeing their classmates, texting their friends, oh my God, did you see in 2019 they could actually breathe? Like, where does this end? That is literally where we are heading. This is the same as the flu. You can look up on the CDC website. Hey, I'm not pulling this out of my butt. I'm trying not to swear it in, and it's very hard. Anyways, you can pull this out of, you can look at the CDC data. It is basically the exact same as the flu. What are we doing? What are we doing? Where does this end? Because it's never going to end. According to these guidelines, it's never going to end. It is shocking to me that every single one of us has survived decades of flu experiences, of flu years, without wearing a mask. We are all here. We should all take a moment and say, thank you, baby Jesus. We made it. Because this is basically the same as the flu. So any one of you that came to this meeting thinking that this is a done deal and you're going to vote in favor of masking of our children, shame on you. I'm going to say shame on you because it is the parents' choice to decide how we're going to do it. If parents want to let their children live in fear and be afraid to breathe, then that is on the parent. But it should not be on any of you to tell me what to do with my child or to force me to do that. That is on the parent and not on you guys. And this ends when we make it end, and I'm not going to have my child to be afraid or to be afraid to breathe. Thank you.
David Horvath.
Hi, my son is a fifth grader here. I personally could not wait we'll probably never get there. If there was a time when you would walk into a bank and if you did this, people would be like, oh crap. Now it's like, cool. This is like my free pass. I work in Illinois, so I'm with Flatlanders, and it sucks. It's stupid. My son loves to come to work with me during the summer. I'm a salesman, so I have to mask up all the time. And for him, it caused anxiety. We'd come back home, great, take these things off. We'd go down there and be like, no, you gotta put this on. So for him, that anxiety level has been going up, right? We have stress balls everywhere. There's stress balls on the nightstand. We got the new bubble poppy things that, it's just, he's riddled with anxiety now. And this doesn't help. And now we're putting our children in a situation where, wait a minute, I had a choice? No, I don't. Do I have to wear a mask? I don't have to wear a mask. Anxiety is horrible. I get the fear thing, but at the same time, we have to be brave to make our own decisions.
Yeah.
My dad died last October, ICU, COVID. That was hard. I was told by them that I need to be really careful because that particular strain was really hard on the lungs. My lung function sucks. I have autoimmune disease, so I take drugs that suppress my lung function. I'm not going to get vaccinated. For me, it's a lack of, evidence out there. It's also a lack of transparency on what these vaccines are. Pfizer's, by all accounts, it sounds like it's using Cas9 with CRISPR. That should work. It should. But just like computer coders, a computer program is only as good as the person that coded it. They make a mistake, whoops. Well, same thing using CRISPR. We're at that point in our technology now where, yeah, literally you can code DNA sequences. So on evidence points, that's what Pfizer's using. I hope they coded it right. And some of these things take a long time to see those effects. Some of the autoimmune drugs that I've been on, it took 6 months before I started developing MS symptoms. Well, that sucks. It took 6 months for me to start to develop those. So give our kids a choice. Also, keep a stable environment for them. Make a decision, stick to it, be brave. So they're not riddled with anxiety. We're a little bit, I guess, capable of saying, all right, this is crap. They're just being tugged back and forth.
Chris Pasner, maybe? Pasner.
Parker?
Yep.
Yep, that would look.
That works.
Well, as you know, my name is Chris Parker. Last year I had 3 students attending school here, this year 2. First to start off is we need to flatten the curve in 2 weeks, then we just need to mask, then we just need to get vaccinated, who are actually the ones piling into hospitals now, unlike what the news tries to tell you. Then that didn't work, so now you need a series of shots and boosters. When does it end? This isn't a pandemic, it's become an endemic. There are legit concerns about the PCR testing. They're amplifying the test at such a high level to create positive tests to push this agenda. It was never even intended to test for a virus this way, as was stated by the creator of it, whom then magically ended up dead 2 weeks later after saying as much, but obviously there's no agenda here at all. Not to mention the CDC is discontinuing the PCR test at the end of the year because it can't differentiate between the flu, the common cold, or coronavirus. 0 kids aged 5 to 12 years old have died from this virus without prior illnesses. If you look at the mask box that you guys so conveniently pass out to everybody when they walk in for conferences and to start school here, it says on the side of the box, it does not prevent viruses, it does not prevent disease, it does not prevent coronavirus. But yet we're handing these out as if this is some magical tool that's gonna prevent us from getting COVID. If I could smell your fart through my mask, you think I can't get the virus through it? Breathing in your own exhaust, carbon monoxide, is not good for you. This is fear-mongering, is being influenced on the pipeline from those who are at the very top in charge of funding the schools. Choosing to mandate masks at your own peril, because so help me God, I will create a coalition of fellow parents and teachers whom are sick of this and pay teachers to school our children at home away from all this tyrannical political crap. And we all know that a mass exodus of your student totals will affect your funding, which seems to be your only motive behind all this, not the actual health or mental stability of the kids. Maybe by hitting you in the wallet, you'll actually consider the concerns and frustrations of the parents that pay your damn salary. This violates international law, the Nuremberg Code. It tramples on our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and our God-given rights. Consider yourselves as being on notice. You will be held responsible for your choices and actions. We will recall all of you and fill your seats with representatives that aren't influenced by money and political theater. Thank you.
Okay. That was the end of the people who signed up for comments. Am I still on?
Yeah, I just put that over there. You good?
Okay. Connie, what do we have next?
On the agenda, we had to share the survey results. I was tasked with getting people's opinions about the various safety protocols that we had in the district or that we could pursue, and wanted to make sure that people had every opportunity to say what they felt about those protocols. So we sent them out to all staff, we sent them out to all families. We allowed families to return more than one per family so that everybody had an opportunity to share. We had 103 surveys returned from staff, and we had 611 surveys returned from our families. Based on the number and the descriptors of survey takers, the administrative team believes that the returned survey results can be used as a representative sample of what both staff and families believe. So I just want to go through a little bit. You can see with our staff, obviously the majority of responses came from our teachers. However, that's also the largest number that are within that group for a total of 103 that were returned. With families, it's a little bit misadjusted there, but we also felt that it was pretty representative because overall the number of surveys that were returned for each grade level were fairly consistent. There wasn't a kind of an outlier related to that. I tried to set this up so that it's a little bit easier to look at so that you could look at both staff and families at the same time. So if you take a look, and I won't read through every single figure, but it's broken into what we asked for was immediate implementation for first semester, that would be their preference, implementation during times of transmission and for 2 weeks after, so in other words, high transmission. And on the survey, it identified that as being above the 1% mark. And then just for purposes of being able to understand a little bit, I put combined support as a figure. I added the top two just to say, in general, this group, at least under some circumstances, supported that safety protocol. So if you take a look at universal masking of staff and students, 83% of our staff did support, at least at some point, for some situations, masking, and 68% of our families. Very small neutral in both, so probably not a big surprise. But then among staff, 10% do not support, and then families, and it was worded to say do not support under any transmission level. And then families, 26%.
Can you please describe how your combined numbers go together?
Yeah, so the top. So the top was the immediate implementation for first semester, and then the other is implementation during times of transmission for 2 weeks after. Certainly you can take a look at them as individuals.
Those are two separate categories, two separate questions.
Correct, you're right.
Those two together statistically, so that 83% is a completely irrelevant number.
Okay, thank you.
So I understand that,
Please.
but I'm gonna,
I
and
would
people
like
can.
everybody else to understand that doesn't understand numbers, because you lie to them.
Okay, so people can take that for what they want. It is useful or not useful for them.
You're lying, you're presenting a lie to everybody.
So now is the part of the meeting that it really is just us who are meeting and you guys are watching.
These numbers mean, and they're not correct numbers. So.
Understood, but this isn't helping matters either. So Connie, do you understand?
Yes, I do. I mean, if the board would like me to just not include those numbers when I'm sharing the slides, I'm happy to do that.
No. So can you just explain it? So
the immediate implementation for first semester was a question that asked, is that something that you supported? And then implementation during times of transmission, again, so in other words, higher transmission, would you support masking then? The reason I combined the two is that both at least support masking under some circumstances. Not under all, but under some circumstances. I felt that would be helpful, but certainly people can make their own decisions. The board can make their own decisions.
The math is not correct. I don't know if we need to go through, but the math.
So to reiterate
I
what.
would like the board to understand these.
Yeah, so.
I will explain it to you, but she's not correct.
Well, again, this is a meeting where we conduct our business at this point, after we listen to you guys. There might be further slides that might explain this a little bit further, so let's just kind of wait through the entire presentation. And also, just as an example here too, every parent in the district was sent results of that's what I'm looking at too, is the results as driven out of the bar chart. So that was sent to each and every participant and the family member of anyone that has an email in Skyward as well. That will help further explain that as well too.
So that's where our survey results came back in for universal masking.
Connie, real quick, do we have an ability to show, I know it's kind of post facto at this point, an ability to show the charts as they were presented to the parents, or is it in this, is it in the presentation or no?
So
All these combined support numbers are bullshit. They're a lot. So I think they should be completely ignored.
I think, like Nick said, we all have access to all of the actual data in addition to what's being presented here. So I think, right, we're all good with that.
Correct. Yeah, that's fine.
Which we review, yes.
Yep.
We independently review the
And
information.
that's the stuff you sent out to us, the results, right?
The actual results from the survey, correct?
Yeah, and that's all the data that you guys are gonna make and see that we're already lost.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess the question to the board would be, do you want me to continue to go through these, or do we want to assume, since everybody has said that they've seen the survey results, I don't need to go over the survey
I
results?
like 41%, that means 59% oppose it, but in her combined support, she's saying 69% support it, which is untrue.
Hang on here, I think we're focusing on this percentage of this survey just a little too much, respectfully. I think the survey that needs to be shown is the people that support masks are 0% currently in this building. There are 100% that support away from their kids. I paid $60 for a babysitter to come here and fight for my kids. If parents are truly worried about their kids wearing masks,
It's
a statistic I want the board to think about.
Yeah, and guys, understand the purpose of you to come here and speak to us without interruption was for us to truly consider the things that you're talking about. So we're asking for the same kind of respect back, so we can, in an open forum, because we as board members cannot speak to each other in a quorum type of situation. So we can't talk to each other outside of this. So this is a meeting in which we can conduct business, so we can talk about the decisions made in the district. Just like in the regular scheduled meetings monthly, it's kind of a similar situation. So again, for the comments that you guys had put out there before, we respectfully listen to you, we understand the concern, but this is our time to try to figure out what we can do in the district to make right by everything.
You know, and also, with the information that was sent out to all of us on the board, all of us live in the community, all parents, this question, universal masking of staff and students while indoors, 45.66%, I support immediate implementation until the end of the first semester. 21.6%, I support implementation during times of high transmission. 7.2% neutral, and 25.53% I do not support regardless of present transmission rate. So those are the numbers that I hear you wanting to know, and I think when you look at those numbers, it's interesting. It seems to me, at least, as one board member, that just under 26% of those who were surveyed, out of 611 who answered, said, I do not support, regardless of present transmission rate, any masking. And that's what it says here.
So I would ask the board's direction in terms of what you would like me to share going forward.
At this point, you know, if you're a member of if the parents out there are a member of the district, they've certainly got this information. Plus, I believe has it been posted as well? Okay, it's also been posted as well. So if you were to go onto the Salem website right now, you'd be able to see that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if anyone wants to see that did not get to see that, you can go onto the Salem Grade School website right now, and you could find that in case you wanted to see the exact numbers if you did not get an email that showed the showcasing of the surveys of parents and through staff members. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, cool.
Right, so the next slide then, since I moved through all of the survey results, and my reason for putting that on there is the agenda item was to address the surveys, so that's what I was trying to do. So at this point, then, I wanted to share an update in terms of where we were at in terms of our student infection numbers, which would be very typical for me to share at a board meeting or going into the administrative proposal, because these were all things that the administrative team did look at. So this is where we're at presently. We've had 22 student positive identifications. That number will look a little bit different from our COVID tracker because this includes students and it does not include staff.
And Connie, this was as of when?
As of today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And the number of homerooms affected by that is 18. If you look at, so weekly, we're given an update from Kenosha County in terms of what the different infection levels are in Kenosha County. I typically share the tracker in terms of where we've been at, and you can see it is above that critical threshold. Again, not my definition, Kenosha County's definition in terms of where the county is at. You can see where there are increases in terms of overall numbers, both in hospitalization has actually gone down in the last 2 weeks, and but the number of cases has gone up. However, one could say there's also a big increase in testing, so that could be driving that increase as well. This is the first time Kenosha County has shared this tracker with us. This is a school age, so it has all the different age levels. So if you take a look at the end, that's September, that would be up there. That is not a complete month. That's where we're at this point in September. But where you see green, that tells you that that category is actually lower than the countywide average. Where you see pink or red, it tells you that it's starting to go above the countywide average of all people in the county. So if you take a look at ages 5 through 13, that, again, this is a Kenosha County, but it does show that the overall number of children in the age 5 to 13, the percent is at a higher rate right now than the average population. And those are the grade levels. That 5 to 13 is almost right in where we are at as a school. There were some understandings that we as an administrative team came to in trying to make some decisions about providing you with options. The board expectation has been that we base our safety protocols on current infection levels. Our team, number one goal was to try and keep our students safe and engaged in in-person learning. That was something that we worked very hard on last year, and were able to do that much more successfully than many school districts around us. Last year, when our more restrictive protocols, such as cohorting, virtual specials, limited interactive activities, canceling after-school sports and clubs were in place, we saw a significant decrease in our student achievement and engagement. And that was a factor that we looked at in trying to make some decisions on something to give to the board to consider. Based on survey results, the staff overwhelmingly supported increased measures that maintain the ability to engage in group and exploratory learning rather than students sitting neatly in rows. Our families, by significant margins, supported increased safety protocols, including masking at high transmission times. Kenosha Public Health has the authority to direct us in quarantining close contacts, but if both students were wearing masks in the classroom at the time of contact, we did not feel our students met that definition. This meant we would also not need to quarantine students on the bus or students in the classrooms that were fully masked. Again, that was our understanding of what Kenosha County had directed us to do.
There's no directive out of this, just recommendation.
There is.
Please share that directive.
Okay, there is statute
Please share
that
that directive
does.
and the statute's enforceable for.
Okay. There is huge disagreement about masking, but we cannot avoid quarantining large numbers of students if students are not masked. This is not an opinion, rather based on Kenosha Public Health Directive, which has the authority to quarantine students.
It's not law.
Survey results made it clear.
Hey, guys.
That's enough.
Listen, I have 2 kids here, right? A bunch of us, we do this for the love of this school. We're trying to be respectful, right? So just give us a little bit of time so we can actually work on this, because like I said before, we can't talk to each other than in an open board setting. So this is the first time we get to talk about this in a public forum. So give us the ability to do that, please. Thank you.
Survey results made it clear that there were families that supported all of the safety measures being put in place and families that supported none of the safety measures being put in place. It was clear that there was no plan that would satisfy all of our families. We recognize that Salem students live in a community with members that may be more likely to have dangerous health outcomes if infected with COVID. Kenosha Public Health or other federal, state, or local agencies may have the authority to overrule any or all safety protocols that are put into place. So with that being said, what we are proposing, and the board has complete autonomy to accept, to amend, to not accept what we're proposing.
So real quick before we go forward, we cannot have an open discussion until a recommendation's been given to us. So at this time, Dr. Valenza is giving us the recommendation based upon the facts, the situation that's currently sitting here. And then after that's been given to us, then we have the ability to discuss before making any sort of vote. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want you guys to understand when we're going through this.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yep. You're welcome.
And if I could just ask, I understand what you just said, Nick, but is this going to be brought up at the next board meeting this coming Tuesday, or are we going to discuss and vote on this evening?
The agenda is written such that.
I've read the agenda. I know what it says. It says board consideration of any changes. So that's why I'm asking, are we going to be voting on this tonight based on this agenda?
Good.
Is it not
Right? Or
written?
It is on the agenda. The board could take action. There's no.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
Thank you. That's all.
So is that a yes or a no?
that's a yes.
We have the,
Tonight.
What's that?
You're voting tonight?
We can.
as the agenda says, we have the ability to vote tonight.
Are you able to tell the public health department 2 letters no?
So
Okay.
the first, so what we did was to try and look at a way, because we understood that many of our families felt that the having the autonomy to choose whether to wear a mask was important. And again, recognizing that there was no clear way. I can tell you that I get significant emails and calls on both sides of the spectrum. I understand this evening there are not those families, but I've certainly heard from those families as well. So in going through and trying to come up with something, what we spent a fair amount of time looking at the survey results, understanding and wanting to understand where our teachers and staff were coming from and what their needs and concerns were, trying to understand where our families were coming from and what their needs and concerns were, And this was our best attempt to do that. It is not obviously, we are not experts. And this is our best attempt to, although I think in today's day and age, the concept of compromise is one now that it seems that everybody is upset. But our goal was to try and find a way to compromise, not with taking all of the opinions and trying to find the middle opinion, but trying to find a way to continue keeping our students in in-person instruction while trying to keep our students safe. And recognizing that engaging in interactive instruction was very important for our students. So we started out with a leveled system. At the green level, there would be 0 active cases, and Kenosha County would have a very low kind of active area as well. One might ask, is it possible to be there? June and July were pretty much there. So at that point, we would have been, had we had school in session, we would have been in that green indicator level. The yellow, which is where we are now, today, would be a presence of active cases, but not greater than 11 or 1% for 5 consecutive school days. And we did that because we felt pretty strongly that you could have a blip, and we didn't want to have this kind of, all of a sudden we're up by 1, now we have to do something. We wanted to make sure there was a trend there. And in that, I guess I would ask the board if you want me to read through those. They were sent out to everybody. There may not be a need to read through the different aspects of them. I guess I would ask what you would like me to do with that.
So Connie, a question. So last year, obviously we have a lot of data from last year, and we have the data that we have this year. How often have we been over that 11 mark? I know that I didn't prepare you for that question, but do you remember last year how often, just generally speaking?
The highest was 12.
Highest was 12, but I think that was just like a month.
I think that's why we set that threshold.
Okay,
at
because our
12.
standard normal that we've seen as a trend in the school
has been significantly below that.
Okay.
So last year in November, when Kenosha County told us that we should shut down to in-person instruction, if you recall, the board met. At that point, we had 1 active case, and we had 6 total. At that point, the board made the decision that they would take action based on current infection levels. So based on that, that was what we built this on.
Thank you.
Was current infection levels. The highest we got last year was 12. We would not have met the orange level indicator last year. Any questions on the yellow?
Do you consider the fact that half the amount of students were actually in class last year as opposed to this year being fully back?
Hey, Chris. Again, I want to be polite, man. Just let us get.
I'm asking a genuine question. I'm not out of line.
Yeah, okay, so let's do this. Let's fill in the thoughts that we've already had. So I'm sure, okay, I'm going to speak for all of us here. The 5 of us up here have been living and breathing this for as long as you guys have, right? So let me tell you, when I'm looking at this stuff, I already am checking a number of things off my list, as you are too, right? So it's got it, it's 1% of the school, can we change the 1%? Okay, so these are put together based on the administration that we put into place. So even if those particular things aren't being said, it doesn't mean we don't know them. For example, a year ago, we didn't have this variant, whatever this other variant is. Delta. Correct, Delta. That is a variable, right? If we're a science-minded people, we already know when you're doing experiments, you want one variable. You don't want all the variables that we're having right now, which is exactly why we're having these conversations. So did our school look different last year? Yes. We had a 3
choice system, now we have a one choice system, right? We can't, it's not sustainable to do virtual all the time, you know, those types of things that we've already gone through. We understand that this year is different from last year for so many different reasons. Can we compare them? No. Understood. Carry on. I just wanted to say that part.
So any questions about the yellow? Okay.
No.
So, and I just clarifying that any of these things, we as administrators recognized that any of these things can be changed by the board. The percentage levels, the levels, no levels, 20 levels, all of those things can be changed by the board. We were tasked with giving a proposal based on the information we had and what we understood to be the case within the school.
So what, just to bring, I don't recall who said it, somebody mentioned the kids and the staff who have already contracted the virus. I've been thinking about that a bunch recently too, like at which point do we start having those people in consideration? I don't know the answer to that either. That's something obviously we can discuss, because there is going to be a certain point when there could very well be more people who have gotten over and have that higher immunity than people who were either vaccinated or haven't had anything. So that is, again, something that comes from these public comments where we are listening, and that was a really good point.
If I could just ask a question, because as I look at the numbers, when I look at question one, universal masking, and that was the one where 45.65% immediate implementation, depending on the numbers at the end, until the end of the first semester.
Correct.
And
it's 45%.
And then 21.6% support implementation during times of high transmission. The other set of data, which was question 11, about parents signing the opt-out, giving their child permission to not wear a mask, that was at 55%, to opt out not wearing a mask. Now, in the way that question is written and related to the other questions, was the intent of that question based on data, as we're looking at now, numbers, positivity rates, and things of that nature?
So it was to try and get an understanding as to if that did impact some of the results. So for example, you would make an assumption if a parent had opted out that they would be less likely to support masking. So that ability to kind of sort through. Another example would be one of with the surveys that I didn't share, was to take a look at 7th and 8th grade parents and see if their thoughts were different, given the fact that 7th and 8th grade parents have an ability to have their child vaccinated. And there was no difference. In fact, the parents of 7th and 8th grade students actually were like within 1 percentage point higher in terms of that support. So trying to look again at if there was something that was potentially skewing that. The next slide that I have is if we had used the system that's being proposed. Because I had a parent today or yesterday ask me, have we reached that 5 days in a row yet? Or how many times has that occurred? And so if you take a look, we would have been in, I say yellow because the Kenosha County infection rate was quite high by the time we started school. So it was above that 10%. We were in yellow all the way through the 13th. And then for 4 days, so the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, we bumped up into that higher rate. The intention of this was that a Labor Day thing? Was that, was there some other factor driving that would cause it to go back down? And in fact, it does appear, at least now, that it has gone back down. We are down, as of today, to 8 active cases with 15 recovered, for a total of 23 cases since the beginning of the year.
So, can you just go back one?
Sure.
So I can't help asking the question of, during that time that there were 12 active cases, which is more than we've had, is it showing that having more active cases in the building created spread?
So when I look at, I have a graphic in terms of the one that actually had the different homerooms. I don't see today significant spread within the school. It's always difficult, just like when you look at schools and say, why do they have higher rates? Why does another school have a lower rate? You can't look at one individual safety protocol to make a decision as to whether that had an effect or not. And that's not what we're trying to do here. We're just making a recommendation to you, to the best of our knowledge, what we saw last year. All of us were here, what we're seeing this year. The orange would be above 1%. Again, that would be 12 or greater. That is the highest point that we were at last year. But not greater than 22. In other words, the 22 takes us up to that 2%. Any questions about what we had for indicators or for what would occur at the orange level? Okay. And then we established a red indicator that would be above the 2%. Our goal at the 2% is we were aware of the fact, and again, people have different opinions as to the authority of the Kenosha Public Health, Kenosha County Public Health. I understand that. Kenosha County Public Health told us that at the point where we reached 3%, they would shut us down to go to virtual learning. And so,
Tony, have you checked, and I've read that, I know that. Is there, as far as, because the comment was made during one of the presentations about, the legal authority of entities and the fact that we have local control here in Wisconsin, and we all know that. But in terms of what's coming also from DPI, and obviously they can come up with recommendations, because I know on what you have there, it does say that the health department or other federal, state, and local governments may have the authority. So I guess my question is, what kind of feedback, what kind of information have we gotten from the attorney at the legal level as far as the legality of all that?
our district's attorney has told us that the Kenosha County Public Health has the legal authority to quarantine students and to isolate students.
Okay.
Not just for COVID, but for other infectious diseases. So that's what we were told by them, that the Kenosha County Department of Health does have the legal authority to shut a school down to in-person learning. Again, that's what we were told by our attorney.
And that 3%, is that every school? Like even KUSD?
Yes. So
is it per individual KUSD school or their overall, do you know that?
Where the public health department has taken action has been in individual schools. One of the difficulties that we have here at Salem is that if you look at, some districts may have a elementary type school and a middle school, and whereas we are one building. And what we were told by Kenosha County, and this in some ways helps, that 3% threshold, if you think about the middle school or grade level, we would be there with 3 students. I mean, so our grade levels run right about 100. If we had 3 students in a grade level, we'd be at that 3%. So the Kenosha County Public Health has told us it is per building. So Kenosha School District or Salem School District is a one building entity. The 3% for us is about 31 students, somewhere in there. Right. So the goal of the red, again, understanding this is our recommendation, was to take significant action to avoid being shut down. We had been told over and over and over again by our families, number one, how much they appreciated last year that we were one of the few school districts that never shut down and were open to in-person instruction. And number two, how incredibly difficult it was for our families when we did not have in-person instruction or we were forced to quarantine large groups of students. 2 districts on our border have had to shut down full grades for 2 weeks just in the last few days. And so, again, we can certainly agree or disagree on what is the best way to do that. Our goal, our number one goal, is to avoid our students being moved to virtual instruction. And that was the role of the red, was to take pretty significant action to try and prevent that from happening.
By preventing that happening, meaning the Kenosha County Health Department.
Shutting us down.
Correct. Okay.
Or us having to shut down because of lack of staff, or us having to move students to virtual because we didn't have the staff available in those grade levels.
Sure.
Okay. So at this point, I would ask if there are any administrative recommendation questions that you have of the recommendation that we're sharing with you.
I mean, I personally think that the administration's done a fantastic job keeping the idea of keeping the school open is critical. I know when we had to shut down, my youngest, who's now in 1st grade, I think, can you guys hear me? Everything's good? Okay.
Dan's looking back there like.
Oh, okay, sorry. This is for the,
Yes.
for that thing. Okay. So here's, when we shut down and, so I appreciate trying to keep the school open because who is now a 1st grader, I feel like he's 2 years behind due to virtual. And that's not to anyone's fault necessarily, other than an unprecedented situation. So, the focal point of the district trying to keep students in classrooms, is paramount to me as a parent of 2 kids in this school, and one that suffered some pretty significant setbacks at an early age, which is that developmental side of things. So I do, you said the word compromise before. I think compromise was certainly a thought process in this, considering the data that was driven, and trying to keep the thought process of our students in the classrooms. So personally, I think this is a fantastic recommendation from my part.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. This is very inclusive. I mean, you're talking about 5 levels, with the red level being very extreme. And if we do what we need to do with the green and the yellow, get to the orange and come back, we're not going to have to go to the red. It's not going to happen because we're going to control it. We're going to make sure that the kids are safe and the learning continues. But we have to be ready in case it gets really bad. We're really concerned with the safety of the students here. I mean, as a retired educator, my number one concern was always in the education. But tied into that, twisted tight, is the safety aspect. We have to keep the kids safe. And that's what we're concerned with up here, is the safety of our students. And I'm looking at this plan. I've been reading over it the last week or so. And it really looks extremely comprehensive. And to get to the end, the really scary part, it's going to be very hard if we make sure that the first 2 levels are followed according to the plan. I don't think we're going to get to the red where all the masking is going to be required. And if we do, then there's a problem. There's a big problem. And I would rather be safe with this. Heck, I'm the guy at the board meeting who suggested, okay, if you want to play volleyball, have somebody on the side of the court to disinfect the ball after somebody hits it. I mean, I'm a germaphobe. But I've always considered the safety. And I think that this plan takes that into account beautifully. And you're not going to agree completely. We understand. And what do they say about a good compromise where nobody's happy? We have to meet in the middle. We have to, because it's the kids. We got to do what's right for them.
We've got the masking mandate in the orange, not in the red.
I said if we do the first couple of levels, the green and the yellow, if it dips into the orange occasionally, it's going to come right back down again.
Thank you.
Kids are safe.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be.
Yep, we're here.
You know, and personally too, in looking through, and I'm trying to keep this very matter of fact to parent input, community input, I tried looking for like half this meeting of an individual who's probably out there right now that said, can you please try to find some compromise to this, try to create some levels, something like that. And it was a beautifully written email. And I think that was in the nature of this, just to show you the kind of idea. And I know there's a lot of school districts in the area that are making this a very black and white situation. I believe we, as this district, since the inception of the COVID-19 situation that we've been, as soon as we're able to have some control, we've always tried to keep options open to try to create the best environment for our kids' education. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're here for, is having a wonderful education. And that's extremely paramount to me, extremely paramount to me. And if they're getting a good education, in my mind, they're safe then too, right? So a lot of what I mean, if you guys saw our inbox, you know how many emails we're getting, right? And I have it to my phone, so I get it throughout the day, and I look at it when I'm having lunch. And so it's very, in my mind, and I think Connie, the administrative team, again, and I'll shut up after this and let other people talk, but you know, we've done this with the best intentions of keeping your kids in the classroom, and I believe there was an individual towards the end who brought up the vaccine situation after, but ultimately that's my goal personally in relation to this program, is to keep my kids' butts in the seats in the schools so they can continue to be good, well-rounded, individual, educated students, so they can contribute to society when they grow up. So I think Salem does a great job at that.
That's good.
Okay. So one thing, Steve's sort of brought it up. Well, I think you did bring it up, but let's circle back. I hate saying circle back. Apologies. From the survey, I think you covered this in the staff meeting. I believe that's where I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing you brought up. Okay, so one interesting piece that I've been stewing over is the question 11, did you sign the opt-out giving your child permission to wear a mask? And yes was at 55%. So let's just say slightly over half. That being said, you go to the question 1, 3, nope. Question 2. So there's the I support immediate action, immediate implementation until the end of first semester, and that's at 45%. And you could circle in the I support it in the 2 weeks and the high transmission rate. I get why those are lumped together. So for the sake of my question, we will lump them together. What's off is that's 66% of people who wanted universal masking, but yet 55 said that they opted out.
So
I would also say that that seems like an anomaly. So I did a sort on that, and these were that I was trying to present. So I did a sort just on, I pulled out those families that did not opt out. I only pulled those families that did opt out to see what their perspective was on masking only. And so of those families, 17% of the families that had opted out supported immediate implementation for the first semester. 28% of those families that had opted out supported implementation during times of transmission and for 2 weeks after. 44% of those families said they would not support masking under any conditions. This is just the families that answered that as opting out. I have had multiple people say to me, and I can't conjecture, but I've had many people say, I want my child to wear a mask, but it doesn't do any good if the other kids aren't wearing a mask. Now, we can agree or disagree in being respectful of people's fears and concerns, because we've heard many fears and concerns mentioned this evening. I can only tell you what other parents have told me and what their fears and concerns are. So I suspect it may be some of that. It may be some of the idea that when I had my child opt out, it wasn't a high transmission time. I don't know the reasoning for that. But I did the sort on it because I also thought it was an interesting number.
And just so I understand the numbers completely too, based upon the process that has been presented to us in the last year and a half, well, year and a quarter of a school year going back to last year, based upon it has to be 5 consecutive cases. Since last year to current, would there have ever been a recommendation based upon what we see there? Sorry, Dan, I'm sure he's yelling at me right now for that thing. So based upon the last year and a quarter, have we seen a situation where we would enforce mandatory masks, or highly recommend would be the highest level based upon the year and a quarter? If I'm reading what happened.
So level red is what you're saying, or are you talking about level?
So based upon the trend that you.
Well, we haven't even hit orange for 5 consecutive days.
Correct, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
So there, regardless of.
The highest threshold would be what we're currently in.
Right. So based upon this plan, mask would be mandatory not only from last year, if we're using that as data, right, to current, they would still be voluntary, slightly highly recommended in certain points, but nowhere would we have, quote, mandated a mask at that point, correct?
So last year in February, we would have reached that 5-day threshold.
So there would have been one time in a year and a quarter based upon the information, and then it curved down. Well, I mean, we weren't using a plan at that point, but okay.
Let's, thank you. Let's talk about the percentage. The percentage of 1% and 2%. Knowing, obviously, that it's a recommendation of doing the 1%, 2%. What about, let's discuss that.
I mean, yellow being one.
Right, like advancing from
those bands.
indicators to indicators.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think this plan was put in.
Microphone.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm going to keep on getting that wrong. I think this plan was put in place with the thought process of that kind of being implemented based upon the facts that we have in our own school district, and trying not to let, other influence per se of other school districts or whatever the case is. We're trying to look at our school district as a microcosm So in this particular case, based upon, and I think it's relevant to talk about the survey, that there was still a substantial amount of people, over a quarter, that didn't want an implementation of masking, right? So when I look at this, when I say 2 out of 4 at 50% is, in my mind, allowing people to have the choice still, to some degree, with a high recommendation at yellow. So I think not only did we take the data that's presented through the staff, which the staff and the parents were it was pretty close, actually. Well, staff was a little bit more than the parents, I will say that, smaller number of people too. But I'll say based upon the parent side of things, who we got to listen to is our constituents, and obviously teachers. I mean, my wife's a teacher, so I appreciate that, and her too, right? So that being said, if you look at the data, we're trying to take, I believe this is trying to take everyone's thought process and put a true compromise. I mean, 50% of what we have in this plan is truly optional, and the other 50% based upon what could end up being more outbreakish that we could look at. Outbreak's a weird word to say in the school district, but based upon these levels, I would say that's a fantastic, I don't hear any other school districts in our area talking about, trying to listen to everyone and creating a plan similar to this that tries to keep some sort of, compromise, but with safety and education in mind. I mean, again, if there is one out there, I'd love to see it, but I feel like we're one of the only school districts in the area, as we have been since last year. They're trying to pioneer and be brave about how we handle certain things to try to make things best for everyone, I guess you can say, and that's a hard thing to do.
As someone who has also been a teacher, a school administrator, teaching at the university level, and I have complete respect for our total administrative staff. In the recommendations, it also states, as we all know, the board has the ability to adopt this recommendation, amend the recommendation, or take no action. So what I'm hearing, at least, is that I'll rephrase that. What I'm thinking myself is I would like to see an amendment to this recommendation. And I'm not ready to come up with and say, these are the numbers, this is where we should be, changing the colors, changing the percentages. But if we can, what I would like to see is to get an amendment to this so I can look at it, I can study it. I've done research. I want to look at the statistics and the numbers before I'm ready to vote.
Which numbers are you looking
No, I'm just saying, overall. And in particular, the green, yellow, and the orange areas. Obviously, the red areas, I mean, that, as Nick, as you just said, that's if there's going to be a huge increase in students who test positive.
Yeah, I think that was an attempt to stop the Kenosha County Health Department from shutting us down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that. I fully understand that.
Steve, what specific information are you looking for?
Well, as I look at the number, as I look at the yellow and the orange, just to relook at that.
Do you mean the 1%, 2%?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and that goes along, Dana, with what you were just saying.
Just clarify.
So,
Yep.
sure, okay, thank you.
I got a question for the board, and I don't know. You just said that you believe this plan mostly is parent choice, optional. And I'm gonna get my bubble for a second. I agree with you. At least there's a choice, whether, the transmission is low, the transmission is high. I agree with you. I agree to a sense with that plan. I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of us just kind of our sole tunnel vision on mask or no mask. That's not really an option. Like you guys said, it's a compromise. We've got to compromise. I'm willing to I think, and this is just, like I said, a recommendation. You just said we're constituents. We're in a debate here. Do you believe that the number of cases per color chart, right? Do you think that is feasible? Because like you said, you went on based on last year when half of it was virtual, half of it was not. Do you think that recommendation number should be increased a little bit, saying, hey, look, instead of 500 kids in this building every day, we got 2,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and
And the reason why I say that is because I came here today expecting either it's masked all the time, no matter what, or it's no mask. You know what I'm saying?
right, which was one great benefit of Dr. Valenza sending out the plan ahead of time, because that allowed, well, us seeing it obviously, but then having you guys take a look at it too. But to your point, that's basically the question I'm asking. What are we married to 1%, 2%, 3%? And let's discuss.
I think the rationale of that 1, 2, 3% is we know what happens at 3%. So we can make gradations that happen between 0 and 3%, right? So, but we know that 3% is a certain number of students. So I think it's our role then to establish, okay, what happens in between? Where do we have to be at to have the most significant mitigation to prevent shutdown, right? We all want our kids in the school. We all want butts in seats. And we want them to have that experience of being able to move around and participate in their activities and all of those things that we've seen that came out of the survey. So it's just really about what happens prior to that 3%. So that's really our only wiggle room of.
And you base 3% because that's what Kenosha County.
That's exactly what Kenosha County is saying.
And that is regardless of COVID or not. If there was an outbreak of
Chickenpox.
That is something that comes.
So once we hit that 3%, we know what's going to happen. So we only have that flexibility between 0 and that number of students.
Did the flu virus never go over 3%?
Not that I'm aware of.
So again, every
I think
week.
the issue is that you guys are then recommending that masks are gonna bring the levels back down. That's what the issue is, but you can see the numbers really don't prove that because the kids haven't been wearing masks and they've been optional and the numbers have still come back down and they haven't continued to spread. That's what most people's issue is that they're saying mask is gonna bring the numbers down when that is not true.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna, because you're politely raising your hand, I'm going to call on you. I forget your name. I probably mispronounced it anyway.
How is the survey going to count into your decision-making? And
We're discussing it right now.
And that ambiguous point on high transition times, and it's kind of almost seems disingenuous to add it to one category. It almost seems like
Subjective, yeah.
An ambiguous data point that maybe shouldn't be.
Well, it's not subjective in terms of the 3%.
Correct.
It's subjective in
0 to.
these are the levels
Yeah.
that were come up with, that the administrative team came up with. Again, that's what we're discussing right now.
It was interesting to answer, and again, I don't think we really want to turn this into Q&A, but as long as people are being polite and things like that, and it's,
Why not?
yeah, right. What sucks for me, I can't speak for everyone here, is, yeah, we're not medical I sell insurance, right? I mean, I'm not a medical professional. However, the state and local governments are really putting the hammer on local school districts to be the experts in these particular situations, which is extremely daunting, extremely stressful. And I think I could probably speak for everyone up here for this. I mean, we probably lost a little sleep thinking about how tonight was going to go to some degree, right? Yeah. So what we're trying to do is be sensical, I think, about how a 3% threshold, what can we do with the knowledge that we have to try to create a comprehensive plan to keep our kids in the school. And unfortunately, I feel that the health department and this is how I feel, has really thrown us on the bottom floor, the lowest. We get paid $100 a month for our annual for a monthly meeting. We have to make these choices that people make, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of $1,000s make. And I would agree 100% with that right there. So what we're trying to do is truly be compromising. I don't have, like, my kids go out and play, they don't wear a mask, so I hear a lot of what you guys are saying, right? But we got to try to do something to stop them from shutting the school down, where we have zero power as a school board to control that act, period.
Which is understandable, that's what you're saying, the masks are gonna bring that level.
Got to try something.
The point that everybody's trying to get is that their recommendation is saying the masks are gonna bring the levels back down.
So I think one of major points that we're seeing here is the governor, and that's cute, but you can, thank you. The governor and whoever else within the state has not mandated anything. I think Evers even said he would not mandate it. So that's great for our freedoms, especially those who spoke about that. Whether it's good or bad, they are pushing this decision to the smallest form of government, which is the school districts. So each and every district is having these same meetings, whether there's similar to you guys or similar to the other side. Where this gets tricky is in questions like the survey one that were brought up. I can't help ask the question of, are families looking to us to provide the mandate so they don't have to make a choice? And that's certainly something that was coming to me in, I don't want us to make medical choices. Like, that's not why we're here. It's more of a, how can we prevent getting to that 33 while providing the freedoms to you and your children? Again, that's what we're debating. We all have our personal views on if masks work or not, but the reality is our policy is that any visitors coming into the building are wearing masks. So the reason that we are wearing masks is because we put the policy in place, and it's something to help prevent getting to that 33. Understood that we can view it differently on if it's spread, which again goes to the question of, if we're teetering on this edge between 1% and 2%, which reached the highest that it was last year, and now it's different, and now there's a different variant, should we consider the percentages within the plan?
I just want to add, though, because I work pretty significantly with my administrative team and with our staff, and I hear from all sides. I hear it from my staff, I hear it from the administrative team, I hear it from our families. My goal through last year, the reason I came out of retirement, which I totally regret, I just want you to all know that. The reason I came out was because I wanted to do everything I could to keep our schools open. My own personal family, my grandchildren, spent a year out of school in virtual instruction, and I saw how it ripped their family apart. So every day we would work together to try and come up with a way to keep our schools open, and I think very successfully. That's what this is about. It's our best knowledge. No, we're not epidemiologists. We're administrators that work in the school every day. This is our best effort to try and keep the school open. That's all.
Absolutely. And I don't
One thing I want to point out is that my son was taken out of school the second day here for COVID. We had COVID in June. We had a family COVID party, right? We were lucky. It was all good. But one thing you're not looking at in the data within these tests that are coming out is that within 90 days, you could still test positive. Our son sleeps in our bed, farts and breathes on us all night long, and 3 out of the 4 people in the house tested negative. And you're telling me that kid had COVID, and he's running around, jumping off the slide and everything, and he had to come out?
Adding to the numbers.
You know, it adds to the numbers. So where does that? I mean, I'm sorry, guys. I see where this is going. I like the compromise. I like the yellow and green. You know, it works, but it's just.
It sucks.
When does it end?
Well, and I think
You
what's,
guys need to make it.
If I could ask you-
guys can stand up, and that's the thing. Like, you guys have the local power to start a movement and be that group. I mean, you just even said it. You're hurting people that aren't even here tonight, Dana. You're answering for people tonight that didn't take the time to come here. You're hurting people that don't want to make decisions. And they're relying on 6 people up there to make that decision.
Sure, let me ask you a point of clarification, which I'm allowed to do as a board member. Based on what you said, and based on what you just stated, as far as the policy goes, as far as the policy that we are looking at now, I'm trying to get a sense of for clarification of what kind of policy you would put into place based on everything we've talked about, all the numbers, the numbers, who can do what, whether it's the county health department or the state, and doing the kinds of things that other states are doing with mandates or no mandates. I'm trying to get a sense of what you're really trying to say.
What I would do is I would wait until you get to the 3%, and I'd leave your school open. I would let everyone be open. If you guys want to wear masks, the kids want to wear masks, let them wear masks. Get to the 3%. And if you shut down, you shut down. But that numbers that Connie provided, you didn't even get there once, maybe February.
So if I understand what you're saying for clarification is to look at what you just said and maintain the policy we've had in place where we highly recommend masks if a parent chooses to have their child wear a mask or not.
Yes, and let the Department of Health contact you and say, kick the kid out of school, because that's what happened to us.
No, I was taught to stand up to bullies. So when the public health department of Kenosha comes knocking, we're gonna stand up to it. That's what I'm gonna teach my daughter.
But if it's 3%, hold on, in all due respect, if it's 3% for any kind of outbreak, measles, mumps, whatever the hell it is, wait till you get to the 3%, see if you even get there. I mean, because you know what? As more of these kids get sick, which you will, and if you guys haven't had it, you're gonna get it. You're all gonna get it. I guarantee it. You're all gonna get it. I hope you all live through it. And if you got vaccine, it ain't gonna be that bad, allegedly. I'll tell you right now, as soon as they get it and they live through it and get through it, they ain't gonna get it again. Because there's no numbers on natural immunity. And if there are, they're not showing it to us. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for her?
Have a nice night.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
And honestly, guys, your input, I know it sounds trivial. We do read the stuff. I mean, we really do. And understand, we see it from both sides. And I can't answer the question why the other side of the argument's not here. However, I can assure you from a board perspective and Dr. Valenza's perspective, we can't just ignore other people just because people are standing in front of us either. And that's a very difficult thing to start kind of implementing, is we're only going to listen to the people who are in front of me talking to me rather than the people who still took the initiative to give us their information. And it would be vice versa. There was a comment made that if it was vice versa about masks, I believe it was Mrs. Cox over there that had said that, you know, it's a similar situation where if we're telling, hey, if they're not here, their voice doesn't matter, similar to if we told people you couldn't wear masks, right? It's a very slippery slope, and I think we all understand as adults and respectful adults that it's just not, every person's voice, if they have a student or they live in this district, we have to consider whether they're here or not.
I have to ask a question too. According to the survey, so the majority of parents opted out of masking their children. Now, majority of parents are wanting to mask their children. So, like you said, let's ride it out. If majority of parents are wanting to mask their kids, then let them. Then let us still not mask our kids and see what happens.
Because they still get the optional choice.
They still get the option.
Our side doesn't get any optional choice whatsoever.
I mean, this plan does give you choice though, right? Until we get to...
Up until the red
Yeah.
line.
Again, I think we as a board are open to more ideas, absolutely. But I think we have to start somewhere, right? We can't just say we're going to sit in purgatory and just sit by and just not do anything, right? Because I think the public's demanding we do something. Now, could we be wrong? Sure. But can we amend that? Sure. Do we listen to what you guys say? Sure. What I'm saying is we have to start somewhere, And at the end of the day, if our kids get the education that they deserve in the school, and it might be a little impeded, perhaps, or maybe not. That's interesting. It's a start. And today's step one. If maybe we roll it back, maybe we push it forward. We got to start somewhere, and at least we can say we made a decision, and we have the power as a board to move forward to change that until we get to a certain percentage. And I don't think anyone, I don't know if I have, that's a different situation I hope we don't get to. But just understand that, guys, really, truly.
So when we pull our kids out of school, how are you helping them?
That's a personal decision. If you're, yeah, right? So, I mean, listen, I think everyone has a benefit. I can't speak for everyone, but I know each one of these individuals pretty well. I think we're all very astute individuals that truly listen to fact and reason. However, we're trying to put something in place that's never been done in this school district in its entire history. And this is pretty monumental, and it's a heavy task, not to mention I have to still take care of my family when I go home too. And then I have to worry about all your guys' families on top of it. It's pretty overwhelming. It's really overwhelming. And for us, we just want to start somewhere, see how it goes. And if we change it, we change it. But we do have to listen to both sides of the coin. And I appreciate everyone here that was super respectful. And I'm glad that we waited to listen to what you had to say, because I think maybe some people's perspectives might have changed just a little bit based upon some of the things we talked about tonight, because the Brave word got brought up a lot. I don't see any other school district other than this great Salem school district making the moves that we are doing, trying to listen to our parents, doing the things we're trying to do. But we also have to listen to our teachers. We kind of got to listen to everybody, right? So just understand that. You tell me, so I'm going to stop there, but I mean, this is crazy stuff, and we're trying to work through it the best we can, guys, all right?
Well, it's definitely wild times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you guys are gonna make the decision that you're gonna make, and I hope it's the best thing for the kids and not for the adults. Because that's what you guys are here for. We'll figure it out. And I guarantee you, if you say no masks, I bet you ain't gonna see one person come through this building or post up signs or try to come here and, rah, rah, rah. I mean, they're just gonna either send their kids in with masks, you guys are gonna keep wearing them, and, I mean, again, thank you for your time tonight, and it is what it is. I wish you guys hope to make the best decision for the kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My point is you say we have to start somewhere. Well, we've all been compromising and doing everything we've been asked as far as social distancing, masking ourselves, masking our kids, doing in-school learning when we had to, and then we've got the vaccines, and then everything's supposed to go back to normal, but it's not. So you say we have to start somewhere, but we've been doing that. Why not continue to give us the freedom of choice? That's all we're fighting for, is our choice to decide what we think is best for our kids, as opposed to the government making it hard on you guys to make a choice when you shouldn't have to do that. That should be our choice. That's not their decision to make.
And I've served on 3 boards, so I know it's countless hours after work, school, weekends, I guess, so thank you for that. I think for me, there's just, I think this slightly, so an example of being would be the numbers from that where you add, I'm going to add up folks who immediately want to have masks again, looping the other ones, that represents 60 or whatever percent. For me, it was misleading, because if you said these people don't mask at all, these other ones will only do it while it's a breakout. So that really means these people are in support of no masking, but a few are willing to bend. So it just feels like you manipulate a little bit. And I will be emailing tomorrow because I want to see the directive of the Kenosha County Health Department and enforce things with you. It doesn't exist. And I know that. And calling Jemad at the Kenosha County Health Department, speaking to lawyers, I understand that. But I felt misled where you kind of, you're an assistance collective, kind of hid behind it. Or forced into, you're not. You choose quarantining, you choose masking, it's your choice. I mean, and so I just want to make that clear, because I'm unhappy that my daughter still can't go back to school until tomorrow because she had to be in class on her mask. But to me, if my daughter's healthy, she's coming to school, so I mean, some people are already talking, so I think depending on your vote tonight, some people are going to pull their kids out of school. I don't intend to, but depending on the vote, what I will be doing is filing a religious exemption. It's protected under the Wisconsin Constitution and federal law. So I'm going to file that. There's no way if my child's healthy, I'm gonna do it. I'm a reasonable adult. If she's sick, I keep her home. I don't affect anybody. I don't do it at all. You know? So as a parent, that's what I'll tend to do. But it just makes no sense if 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, so 40 hours a week, the kids are on the bus and they're coming home, so they maybe masked, maybe not. And outside of that, they're all getting together doing whatever. So to think you can somehow control just here only, and that's, I guess, to me, the part of the stuff. And it's difficult for you. I get that it truly is. But if they were in school every day or 24 hours a day, it's kind of different. But they're not. You know, and so until the rest of society changes, once you walk in the door, you've all seen it. You've been out there. Almost no one wears masks wherever it is. So I think that's where we're almost kind of fooling ourselves a little bit. I understand you want to get kids in their seats. It's a tough spot. I get that. But for me personally, my daughter's going to be here if she's healthy, and she's going to not have a mask on. And I'm going to follow the religious exemption, which is protected. I have no other choice. I want her in the seat too. But I'm just being honest, there. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just recommend that let the 3% be the 3%, and if you get to that point, and then you deal with it at that point. Because then everybody has their choice and their option to do what they want to do until you get to 3%. And that's when somebody else that you say can step in and make the decision.
So, in light of everything that we have been talking about, I go back to what I said 45 minutes ago, and that is, if the administrative staff would come up with an amended recommendation based on everything that we have talked about and everything, then I would be happy with it. And you're frowning like you don't understand what I'm saying.
I don't
Okay?
either. I don't either.
You don't?
I don't know
Well,
what, I
I'm
don't
saying
know.
is, you're asking.
Steve, I don't know what the amendment that you're looking for.
I think you should make a recommendation to them to amend.
Correct. So, okay. As Dr. Valenza said when she kicked this off, we can do everything, we could do nothing.
Right.
The choice is ours. There is not a motion on the table. There does not
I understand
need to
that.
be. The recommendation was presented.
Mhm.
It is now up to us to give a directive or make a motion. So if there's specific things which within each level that you want to discuss, then let's do that. Like the percent we talked about. So I think it's really just bringing up concerns now, or obviously tabling it, and we can.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you want me to bring something back, I just am not understanding what you want me to bring back. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No apologies needed. It's,
Well,
so what are you?
what I have been hearing is, and you said it yourself, Madam President, was some sort of a compromise, that 1%, the 2%. So if you're asking me what I'm saying, then let's make it 1.5%. Okay, I mean, if you're trying to put it on me by this, which is fine, that's okay.
Agreeing?
What?
1.5 degree?
Yeah. No, looking at this, the orange indicator is where grades 6 through 8 masking is mandatory in all buildings in all situations where social distancing cannot be maintained. And that's if it's greater than 1% or 12 or greater active cases for 5 consecutive school days, but not greater than 22. And I know that 33 is that number that puts us in that higher percentage, which then supposedly the health department may or can say that the school's shut down, right?
So I'm going to make a recommendation, and understand before I make this recommendation is with the idea that we do have the ability as a school board to amend this after I don't want to. I've been on the board for I think 7 years, and I've been in a situation where we've let things sit in limbo too long, and nothing happens, right? So I feel that the better way to do something is put something in place that we have the ability to amend, get more feedback on that, because I think the public, the staff, and the community is asking for us to make take some sort of action. So whether this is right or not, I'm I believe it's a great start, and I think there's been a lot of thought process put into this recommendation to the board. So I motion that we adopt the recommendations as presented from the administrative team for the COVID-19 protocols.
So moved.
I second it.
Is this a roll call type of vote?
No,
Where
okay,
is hands
so
up?
a motion was made and there's been a second, so now we can discuss. I hesitate doing something for the sake of doing it when it seems that we have the question on the table, perhaps, of could the percentages be modified?
And I understand that. And we can modify them. And I think based upon the data that we've had for the year and quarter here, -1 situation, in my mind, gives the most compromise to all parties involved. And truly, in my mind, I still have to listen to the other people that are not present tonight. That I think it's fair to put that in perspective, that there was a majority, based upon our survey, that wanted immediate implementation regardless of a plan. So when I say this, am I open to changing aspects of this? Absolutely. However, I think for us to move forward without making some decision, in my mind, is just prolonging something that we need to do to try to give some clarity to our residents, to our students, and to our staff. And furthermore, I think that if this ends up being the wrong decision, hey, it's wrong, we'll fix it. We're a board, we can do that. And in my mind, that's just at least where we start. And I mean, we can vote yay or nay on this thing, and I'm okay with either way on that. However, I do feel like we have to at least attempt to take the recommendation of the people who have been in the school tirelessly trying to work through this process and have to deal the day-to-day on this.
I agree with the board president in terms of not making the decision at this moment. Keep in mind, this is the 23rd of September. Our next board meeting is in 5 days on the 28th.
Sure.
So holding it off 5 days, Nick, is not ignoring our responsibilities. That's why I was suggesting that we have these 5 days to come up with some sort of compromise, particularly within the orange level.
Yeah, but I still don't understand what compromise you want in the orange level, and I think that is exactly
Okay,
what...
I will work on that and send it to Dr. Valenza by
Steve?
tomorrow evening. How about that?
I just want to make sure still that it's not, that it wasn't the majority that wanted immediate, that was the numbers that were put together. Immediate was 45%. Or 40%.
But the majority based upon the survey results, right? So yeah.
No. Percentage outside of the survey of the parents in the school that elected to have their children not wear masks. Outside of the survey, there must be a statistic of, here's the total number of students, here's the total number of parents that said, or signed, that said, my child doesn't have to wear a mask.
Right, and with regards to that, 611 people submitted information on the survey, and I think with the opting out, it was 609. So could both parents, both guardians,
Steve,
vote?
just to amend, it was families, not individuals.
Right,
So,
family.
so that's representing 600
No, I'm asking.
pupils.
Was that individuals within it? Was that total? So 611 families or 611 responses?
611 responses.
So, okay,
Stand
thank you.
corrected.
Okay.
Can you poll the people right again now when it's relevant to what it is right now? Can you just pull that one question and say, will you opt out?
Those first two questions though too, when you read those first two
They were
questions,
pretty clear.
in the context of, if you are being told, hey, listen, if you want your kid to go to school, he's gonna have to mask up. That's different than saying, do you support masking or not? That is, you're pushing someone. Because you're saying, hey, if you want your kid to go to school, and we know that's really important, you're gonna mask your child.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, but we still have that 33.
But my point is, I had to reread those questions several times to go, is that question framed in the context of, if you want your kid to go to school, even though you said, you know what, I don't want my kid to wear a mask, now I'm being posed a different question.
I think
I want my kid to go to school, gee, I guess I should.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry for interrupting, but I raised my hand earlier. You answered his question because he was polite. You
Yeah.
looked at me and said, how cute.
It was meant with love and care.
So,
Thank you for your
I think this entire plan is with the idea, regardless of the questions, of how we can keep the school open. So I think I understand what you're trying to say. So
And safe for everyone.
well, I mean, that's apparent. I mean,
And a good education.
agreed. But I think this entire program has been put in place to make sure that we have the ability to keep the kids in the school. And that was the whole idea of it, because, yeah.
Completely agree.
Yep.
And I think some people have said it really well, is with every other infectious disease, we don't have these protocols in place. You reach the 3%, this is what we do. So it really does come down to it's maskers versus non-maskers. And it's never been an issue in the past, but because this has been so polarized, we're now dealing with it. And I guess that's what's frustrating is if this wasn't COVID, if we were here, we wouldn't even be having a meeting tonight.
There's a lot of things I think we'd like to be talking about other than this right now.
I mean, I guess that's the frustrating thing is, right, even this meeting has come down to, you're a masker, you're not a masker. And I just keep thinking, yeah, why can't we just, hey, we have a protocol in place with every other infectious disease. We've never required masking with it. Why is this different? If the data on masks is accurate, then this should be in place for every other infectious viral.
And the death rate is 0.03% for children. It makes it 0% or 0 cents to me why we are not.
I'm just looking at it from the
It sounds like you understand how difficult this is for us, based upon what I'm hearing, right? Yeah.
You're making it harder than it needs to be. Look at what Paris is doing. They are masking, optional, quarantining the sick. Everyone else is healthy. They go to school. They're not even doing cases or they're not doing contact tracing at all. At all. If you want the kids in school that are healthy, let them go to school. Get to 3%, and then we can have a discussion on, okay, we're gonna go virtual for the 2 weeks, mitigate the school, come back, and just move on. I mean, why are we making it so hard?
Well, because it is.
You're making it harder.
No, but I guess it isn't hard, right? Because we didn't do this with influenza, and we know that that's very virulent.
Right, and, okay, so we don't.
So we could be here all night
We've
talking
gone a
about
different
this.
path,
And
yes.
again, we've listened to you. This is not a disrespect issue. This is about whether we move forward with a motion or we kill the motion and we wait till Tuesday, next Tuesday. At this point, right? And I think that's with respect to you guys, it's respect to us, and that's respect to the people who told us our opinions or the people of the survey that are not here as well, because they have to also, like I said, be counted into the consideration of what decisions made tonight. So there's a motion on the floor.
And it's been seconded. So can we vote?
I call for the question.
You call for what question?
I call for the question to vote.
We have to vote.
We have
Yes,
to vote.
I was,
Okay, I know you know that. so-
thinking and
Okay,
breathing.
sure.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay.
Nay. So motion carries, it's denied. So Nick, to your point, I understand that we said once it reaches 10, we're going to have a meeting, which we are. I think where the hesitation is in the numbers.
Hey, Dana? I support the movement of the board. I'm not denying that. That's why we're a 5-person board. I'm not gonna fight that, right? So we've always moved together as a board.
Yeah, we're doing great.
So that's what I continue to do. I'm not gonna try and make a scene here.
Yep, no, correct.
And we have all been
No,
on the
see-
3 side and the 2 side.
Doesn't
before.
matter.
Yep, it's, okay, so where we go from here? We can obviously have another motion if we discuss more, or we could certainly
We can put it on the agenda for next Tuesday.
We
How about
still
that?
have a plan in place. This does not negate our previous plan of opting in and opting out. So the way I see it, we are really just continuing
Conversation.
with the plan that we put in place several months ago, and we are continuing to have the discussion.
Madam President,
Yes.
Steve also offered to send something to Dr. Valenza, a suggestion for maybe a little different arrangement. And from what I'm hearing you say, we're going to continue with what we've been doing, but we're going to bring this up for discussion again, possibly put it on the agenda for Tuesday. In the meantime, Steve could draw up something. I've had something going through my mind also. We can send these suggestions to Dr. Valenza and see where it goes.
So the concern is, since this is still on the table, and we do have a regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, this is where it comes in of, we do have other topics to discuss. It's not like everything else is shut down.
So set another special board meeting?
Good idea.
So I don't want to,
Get away with normal business? Okay. That's fair.
so the question is, do we do this same thing on, say, Monday to prevent Tuesday that provides us 3 days, 4 days to continue talking about specifically, it sounds like what came out was the percentages. If us 5 individually could, yes?
So I think what's fair though is, I don't think it's fair to the administration or for the people involved in wanting the change to try to do it that rapidly. I'd say at least a week is suffice. So what I'd say is if we held another meeting in about a week, so we can get things together, maybe some more input.
Okay.
Get your guys' ideas or our ideas or whatever. I'm not trying, this is not a pin thing. Then we can have an informed discussion based upon facts after this, because maybe there's some people who were watching tonight that didn't realize fully what we were thinking of trying to do here either, too. So maybe that changes some perspective as well.
And
I get
knowing
it.
that we have fallen below, I'm sorry, what are we at now?
Eight,
I can't remember.
I believe.
where we're-
So,
Regardless of the number.
but I think it's fair to the administration and for those who want to see something changed on there, that, I mean, asking for, Friday and then having something ready for a Monday is just a lot. So I think at a minimum, at least a full week is recommended, and maybe
a little more.
Or we can send out, Connie, is a situation where you can send out, see our availability, because, I mean, I know I'm swamped coming up here pretty soon, but I know this is important as well.
Yeah, and let me also add, thanks to our administrative staff and our staff and all the parents who submitted information on the surveys. And, as one board member and as someone who's been on the other side of the table as a teacher and a school administrator, to have something in front of us that people have put input into a lot of time, that I want to thank everyone for doing that, because as one board member, I sincerely appreciate it.
2 board members.
Thank you.
So there is without a doubt that you 3, Connie and Marquez, I know isn't here. Hopefully he's at home with his baby, maybe. Bless him. You guys have done an amazing job with this plan. The proof is in the pudding based on the level of detail and care that was put into it. I think it's, with me, the question is, what is that percent? And we could certainly come back with it being, yes, these are fine percentages, we just needed more time to think, or it could be something different. I would rather, or I think it's good that instead of approving this and then a week later making that change, I think it's worth the extra week and a half to just make sure, even if we do come back, approving this particular plan.
Right, and as you also stated, we currently have a policy, a board policy in place, so it's not like we don't.
And the reason we're having this meeting is because when we set the policy in July, we said we would revisit when it came to 10. And maybe we reached 10 before the neighboring schools, but the neighboring schools are, as we talked about, at the same percentage. So it really does beg the question then of what is that percentage?
Fair enough.
Okay. I move to adjourn the meeting at 8:32.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned. Thanks for coming.
Thank you all for